Welcome to the Endurance Balance. I'm Coach J.W. McKenna. Joining me are Coach Alicia Phillips and Coach Ann Sharkey. Together, we break down the 80-20 philosophy through the lens of real life. Our goal is simple, to help you fit the training into the chaos. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Endurance Balance. I'm Coach J.W., and joining me at the table, as always, are coaches Alicia and Ann. We spent the last 3 episodes talking about the athlete, the why, the engine, and with the engine, things like nutrition. The chassis was our last episode, and we talked about the bone health. Today, we're going to talk about map, right? We're going to map out or tell you how we map out an athlete's year and some tips and tricks on how possibly you, the self-coached athlete, can do it as well. Most people with great intentions will make New Year's resolutions, right? Often they fail by February because they don't have a map. And so again, what we're going to talk about in this episode should help you get past February, right? You got to put the work in, but we'll kind of give you the roadmap on how to get past the New Year's resolution high, if you want to call it. All right. So other things that we'll talk about in mapping out the 2026 is how do you pick your races? How to do it without destroying the family dynamic. Fitting the chaos, the balance into the chaos is definitely a theme for tonight. And then, the science and how we as coaches, the 3 of us, which I'm sure is going to be similar but different on how we map out athletes for the year, right? And so it's more about how can you peak for your race instead of just randomly peaking on some day in March and then not understanding why you kind of bonk. Before we get to all that, we're going to do the training log, right? So in the training log, we talk about the highs, the lows, and some of the humbles from the last 2 weeks. So I'll turn it over to Coach Ann first, and then we'll get Alicia's take on the last 2 weeks.
All right, then, right into it. So you all know, we've talked about this several times, that I've got the Key West Big Pecker Challenge coming up this weekend. We actually fly out tomorrow night. So running Saturday and Sunday. Weather actually looks amazing. So I'm super excited about that. Although
what's considered amazing? Describe amazing.
So, amazing to me is going to be really amazing to you all up there in the frozen tundras. I think we're looking at a low of 65 for Saturday morning. Sunday morning, I think looks like in the 50s. But the caveat is there's always a but. Today, what popped up on Sunday was the high of 71. Perfect. I'll take it. But 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. Ooh. So doesn't bother me during a race. I don't care. I'm sure there's going to be sand. There's going to be a little bit of sandblasting happening. But what I'm more worried about is we have a little excursion planned in a seaplane out to the big Dry Tortugas National Park afterwards. And I am not ready to get on a seaplane at 30 mile an hour winds. So it is what it is. It's race day. I always tell my athletes, you never know what you're going to get. So, bring it on. We're going to go have a good time. So, and I will share a little funny story with y'all that JW had me freaked out late last week. I think it was actually last Thursday night or something? You had sent a message and said, good luck on your race. And Alicia chimes in. She's like, yeah, go get it. I'm like, it is not this weekend. And JW,
I don't know, I still think I'm right, but
I know, right? JW writes back, he goes, are you sure? And then it planted that little bit of doubt. I'm like, no, I'm not sure. So I went over to the website and I thought, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, if we're at the wrong weekend, then we're just going to go have a good vacation. So went to the website and sure enough, it is this weekend. So we're good.
I do apologize for that. No. I wasn't really trying to freak her out. I was just trying to be a smart ass. That's all.
But it was funny. I did laugh because I was like, you did plant that little seed of doubt. I was like, oh no. It's funny because I have been getting things finished up at work and telling everybody, of course, I'm on PTO, and I was, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Where are you going? I'm like, Key West. And there were a few people that knew why we were going to Key West, but not everybody. And then the word started getting out about why I was actually going. And this working here is the place that I'm working now is different than it's something that I've never done before. The people that I work with don't truly know. I think I said it before. It's like I entered the witness protection program when I moved here. Nobody knew my history. Nobody knew what all we have accomplished. And so they had.
Isn't it great?
It's
You're
so
like a new
nice.
person.
Yeah, it's so nice. I love it. So the word got out that we were going to do these runs back to back, and everybody's like, "Why would you do that?" And then today, someone said, "Oh, have a good time on vacation," and everyone's like, "That's not a vacation, though. Like, you're going to run." And I said, "The weird thing is that." My husband and I have only ever been on one vacation that was not centered around a race. And that was just in last April when we went for my birthday. So, to us, this is normal. I don't know. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. The training is done. I'm really just avoiding the crud that's going around these like a lot of people are sick. My son was here. He's now sick again. I've got my orange juice and my, zinc popping every night. So I'm just really avoiding what's floating around out there. So yeah, we're going to have a good time. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be cooler weather, but we're
It's
ready.
a mindset.
I'm
you
ready.
think it, you'll become
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get sick, you're going to start feeling sick.
I know.
You think you're healthy, all is well.
I'm good. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a few little race strategies kind of in the back of my mind, thinking about what I'm going to do. This isn't the first time I've done a back-to-back race like this. So there is some strategy behind it. You really just have to focus on rest and recovery after those first two races. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be an adventure.
I do this with all my athletes, and I actually picked it up from Matt. So Matt Fitzgerald picked it up from him. I think it's in his book too, The Endurance Diet. Tart cherry juice. Do you use that at all?
I did for quite a while, and I got away from it because I just wasn't able to find it in the stores like on a regular basis. So I actually kind of forgot about it. And this weekend, it popped into my mind again. I haven't picked anything up, but I do love a good tart cherry juice shot before you go to bed.
Yeah, I usually prescribe to my athletes, start about 4 or 5 days ahead of your event. Just 1 cup or glass, like a glass of a cup, of juice. Have it after the race and a couple of days after. I don't know. I tell them, I don't know. I view it as acupuncture. I can't really tell you it's not working, but do you want to take a chance if it's working not to do it?
Yeah. So what are you using it for? I've always heard for sleep. It helps with sleep. What are your thoughts?
A natural anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
Right. And so the thought process and the reviews or the learning I've done on it has been more of it's going to prolong some of the swelling and the inflammation from your events. And so realistically, then you should be able to go further a little faster before you kind of start to potentially slow down. And then it just helps with recovery as well. So,
okay, I like it.
Yeah. There's your free hack for the listeners for the
how much
show so far.
Just like a shot? Are we doing shots before bed?
250 mils, like 1 cup.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to break it up into shots, I mean, hey,
do whatever. I do need to get back into the routine of that because I do like it. But yeah, it's just one of those regimens that fell out of place.
Good stuff. And
awesome. Alicia.
Tastes good too.
True.
Yeah, I so we're recording this on Wednesday, and I had one of my friends texted me. She's like, "Hey, how are you? How are you doing?" And I was like, "We're doing it." That was my response. And I was like, "Not how are you?" I was like, I can't respond back. I was like, "We're doing it." And I don't know about you, if you guys have ever played these games of like, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes and just see how productive I can be. I've done this sometimes when I'm like in writing, and I just need to like, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to give. But today it was a game of we got to divide and conquer, dentist appointments, wrestling practice. I had to teach a class. And then I was like, we have 30 minutes. And I had my 2 older kids with me. I was like, you guys, we can crank out grocery shopping right now. We can do this. And it was this game. You guys, I got down here, made it in time, 2 minutes to spare. And I was like, I am doing it. Like, it's one of those moments, it's completely chaos, but it's like, I got my run in, I got my workout in, we got grocery shopping, like, we're crushing it. It's
awesome.
just one of those things of a little craziness. There's just no downtime. But we made it. And I also have a mini race. I don't even know if I want to call it a race. I can't exactly say I've been training for it, but it has been holding me accountable to getting out there and moving and adding speed work and doing some running. So for me, I really, and we'll kind of get into this more as we get into the meat and potatoes, but when you do some long distance events, it's really fun to kind of come back to speed work. So if you do like a marathon, a half marathon, I like to go back to the 5K, go back to the 1 mile distance. And you kind of can cut out on that long duration stuff. And I personally love speed work. I love running fast for short bursts and getting that kind of like craziness. Anyways, so I've been just getting out there, but it's also been my reminder of I'm not actually doing enough of the easy stuff too. So I've been really humbling myself, asking, like, doubting my workouts. Why am I so sore? Am I underfeeling? So just so you guys know, as a coach and as an athlete, we are always questioning our things. That's why we always need accountability and community and a coach. But I am doing next Friday, my son and I are flying out to northern Michigan with my sister and her husband, and we are doing a 5K Bigfoot snowshoe race.
That's amazing.
That's very cool. Yeah.
This isn't our first go around. People say, oh, it's just a 5K. It is not just a 5K, man. This is crazy elevation and like a foot of snow, and they map the course out that morning, so it's like fresh powder. You need to run fast to get ahead of the lines because you don't want to get caught up in the single track. If anyone's gone mountain biking and you get stuck behind somebody or trail running, you know that feeling of like people trying to pass. Plus, you have snowshoes on. And
and if nobody is snowshoe, like if any listeners have never snowshoed, just try walking through the mud, right? Or running through the mud. It's almost like that, like not quite as bad, but there is like, we haven't done much this year. The snow is not great this year, but we've done some with the kids and everything. So not big stuff, but man, you come home, you're tired just from hiking in snowshoes.
Yes,
so running,
so that
right?
equivalent of running in mud. I need to start working my hip flexors and preparing myself for this because flats aren't going to do it. So that's exciting. And planning some fall events. I don't know, should I go into it right now?
Yeah, get into that. But lay it out like you just laid it on us like 10 minutes ago.
Right. Okay, you guys, let me get on my knees for this. Okay. This is one of those things. My sister, she always gets me out of our comfort zone. She's turning 40 this year, so of course we're going all out. We are doing this trip of a lifetime. It is, again, just like Anne said, when you travel, most of your vacations aren't just like, let's go to the beach. We like to plan our trips around, like, if you've come home and you're completely exhausted, like that is a good vacation. Okay, drum roll. I haven't actually like purchased it yet, but we are going on an 8-day, 7-night trip running through runningvacations.com to the Azores. And you're like, where is that? It is these little islands off the coast of Portugal, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in October. So
I'm so jealous. That's amazing.
So the cool thing
cool.
is you're doing a 3-day event. This is going to be close to 50 kilometers of trail running over the 8 days. We'll go to 2 different islands, and there are races, but it's not, I don't know if people are actually racing them as much as they are completing them and experiencing them. For me, I feel like I definitely want to more experience it. I want to take the pictures. I want to take the video. I want to like take it in. We're also doing like whale watching and probably do some wine tasting, and just the way they experienced it with us is that you're just going to be exhausted every night. It's a 7 a.m. wake up, in bed by 9, wake up, rinse and repeat. So it's so exciting. I was super pumped, you guys all. It's only January, so it's a lot to, think ahead, but it's motivation to definitely, it's not a marathon that I'm running, but it's I'm going. Yeah.
I don't know. Those are pretty cool experiences to bring back too, right? Like,
it's
sorry,
gonna
who did you
be
say you're going with you on that one?
my sister and I. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty good. That'll be some good bonding time.
How many miles a day?
It varies between 6 and 12K kilometers, but they said over the trip of it is like 50K we'll do. So
kind of like just doing a foundation run, really, like a day, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. You had mentioned the name. Was it like adventure races or something like that?
I think it's like either RunSeek or vacationrun.com. They keep changing the name.
Yeah, I actually
now you guys are going to start getting ads and Instagram, social, like you're going to start seeing it now all over. So I apologize, but I don't.
No, don't. It's funny because so Alicia initially sprung this on us before we started recording, and my response was different than now, but I am so excited because that actually popped up, not that specific race, but that group popped up on my Facebook several months ago, and they were doing one in Moab, Utah.
Oh, yeah.
And they had done like a launch list, and you could jump in for early VIP registration, but it was, I think, pretty much the same, like over 5 days, camping options, and there was a lot to it. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like so much fun. And then I looked at the price tag and I'm like, maybe not right now. But eventually I would love to do something like that. I think it sounds amazing. Here I am, like I haven't even gotten through my after retirement race, and I'm already thinking about other things. But we'll also get into that later in the podcast when we talk about our 2026 plans. So I'm excited for you. I think that's amazing.
Yay!
Well, that's very cool. Not much on my side for the last couple of weeks. We just, kind of been working through some of the New Year's stuff. And, Alicia, it's interesting that you mentioned hey, can we get groceries done in XYZ time before we got to go? We actually unintentionally, I guess, did that on Monday night, right? We dropped Runa off at karate. And then just for whatever reasons, I had to go with her to go to Costco, memberships and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm actually looking at Iric and going, okay, we got 1 hour tops. That's it, right? If not, we got 50 minutes. We got to be in and out of Costco. And anybody who shops Costco knows that sometimes that's a challenge, right? Plus that it was a Monday night because not too many of the free samples were out. But we were able to do it. So I actually liked that, kind of like that, a little bit of a challenge. That was great. It was just like, okay, we have to be in and out. And it was just like, gosh, no, none of that. You see it, we got time to buy it kind of thing. It's just like, no, what's on the list? Let's do the list, stick to the list, and away we go. So, base season, we're good. Got lots of good calls with some athletes. We're setting up some of the stuff that we're talking about here tonight. I just had a call with an athlete this morning. How do I map out? I'm returning to sport after some time off with having kids, right? And it's like, hey, have I got a podcast for you? Right? How do you fit the training and fit it all into the chaos? But it's what we're going to talk about tonight is definitely. It seems easy when you do it over and over and over and all the time. But as a self-coached athlete, or even some with coaches, I can see how it could become kind of gray and possibly daunting, right? Like, oh, I'm not sure where to start, not sure how to do it. So, I think really, I mean, I'll explain mine after, but I'll start with you, Alicia. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, when you're, when how do you set the goals with your clients, or even for yourself? So when you're going in and you want to think, okay, what am I going to race? We know, we talked about earlier in other episodes about the why. Why do we race? Why do we train? Why do we want to do this? And again, it's why do we even stay fit? It doesn't even have to be for a race. We always talk about daily activities of life and living longer and whatnot, but like, what are you? So when you're picking these races, like you kind of talked about it a little bit. Mine just kind of popped up because we saw an ad, so to say, and that's what we both agreed that's going to be really cool. So yeah, sometimes it's like throwing a dart at the dartboard. But are there been other times when it's been, say, been more purposeful and like very strategic on how you pick your races? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a very open-ended question. And if you are, as you're listening to this, wondering like, how do I go about this? Please reach out, because I'm going to give a few examples of just real-time athletes that I'm coaching, and hopefully you can kind of either relate or gain some clarity. So I have a couple athletes. It's actually fun right now because we are past the base building and we're kind of like into it. We're into the grind, getting more into specifics, but it's a fun stage because for most people, January is that reset, restart, refresh. And for them, they're just like, I want to race. But the problem is there's not a lot of races on the calendar. So it's making sure, one, you're still hungry for the training, you're still excited about the things, and still keeping yourself healthy, focusing on the consistency. So if I can give anybody any kind of recommendation, is one, listen to your body, but like rest when you need to rest, but try not to stop doing the thing. So again, obviously, if you're just coming off of doing a marathon, yes, like rest, take some time off, regroup, but then get back going. So if it's, so I'll give an example right now. I have an athlete who's doing the Cape Town Marathon in May. So we are well into his build. Actually, we're not well into it. We're still kind of getting started, but we've been doing a lot of speed training, a lot of strength training, and it's kind of that reversal now of making sure the strength we haven't just suddenly stopped cold turkey strength training. We're just pulling back. The goal is to maintain our strength, not necessarily build strength, and making sure we're primed for our key workouts at all times. So those runs are obviously the most important part. He's doing a 10K. We kind of just tossed it in there. There was a race. He got excited about it. I'm like, let's do it. It's going to kind of reset some zones, get us a good idea of where his fitness is at currently without, doing any kind of testing. And I have some other athletes who, again, they might not have a race until November, but we're not stopping. We're just building, we're playing, we're focusing on weaknesses and having fun along the way. So whether it be becoming more of a focus on nutrition, doing a lot of zone 2 easy runs. I've actually been doing a lot of, and maybe, I don't know if you guys have been doing it, hill training. So incline treadmill, hill intervals, and getting creative. Somebody asked me, they were just like, when you run, like, you have different paces. And I was like, wait, what? And so I use somebody who just goes out and runs the same routes, same distance. You have 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week. This is what you do. And then you're wondering, like, why is nothing changing? So again, finding that progressive overload, keeping easy days easy, hard days hard, and balancing like life and work and travel and the chaos.
So I'm going to throw 3 more things at you to add into that. So in the past episode, I think it was 2, you talked about the goal needs to be scary, right?
Mm. Mhm.
In episode 1, we dropped the 4 Fs, right? And not in a bad way, everybody's probably thinking, right? These 4 Fs, they're very good. Huge amount of positive feedback on those. And then, yeah, you kind of, touched on, the mom reality, or how do we get this in there? So how does that all play in with your athletes and even your own personal goals?
Yeah, so I have some moms who they don't have any race on the calendar. And you're probably asking, like, why do they have a coach? Well, sometimes they just don't want to think about, they just want to be told what to do. So if you've ever worked with a trainer or a coach, um, or gone to a group fitness class, right? You show up to class because you're probably going to get a good workout, and it's going to get you in front of some people, keep you accountable, and make you show up. So just if anything at all, show up, do something is better than nothing. And, but then once that becomes good, like even today, I went for a run and I was hitting some paces, nothing crazy, but what normally would probably make me more zone 3 threshold heart rate, I was hanging around like 140s, which is like for me zone 2, like low top end zone 1. And I felt like I could have just kept going all day. And I'm just like, but I liked this pace. I didn't want to run faster. I was very content running chill. And I was like, I need to do this more. And that's what my body wanted. So it was one of those moments that sometimes I feel like I said, I love speed work. I love doing the things, but giving yourself permission to keeping 80% of your workouts easy is going back to the basics, foundation, and fueling those workouts as well. So yeah.
Cool. And
So I think for me with my athletes, it's picking out the race or races, and then of course we work backwards to see where we are, put it into the training calendar. I have several athletes that are targeting a couple different races. I'm like, put everything that you think that you want to do into Training Peaks, and then let's go from there. But let me know, what is your A race? What is your B race? And if it fits into the training, some of these might be just training days, as long as you're on the same page with me that it will stay in the zone that I prescribe. It's hard to hold back though, as sometimes I find that they want to just go and they do forget that it's just a training day. So we have to have that little bit of a conversation, but working backwards and finding out exactly what that A race is for them. I think
how do you help them select that A race though?
they usually come to me with, this is my target race, but then my friends are doing such and such, and I kind of want to do it with them. So can we do that too? And I was like, okay, let's see where it fits. I have an athlete right now that's training for a 70.3, and she's really, really time constrained. She's got 3 boys and she's a teacher. She's just got a lot on her plate. So we're being pretty cautious about what training looks like. We had a conversation, I think it was early this week. I don't even know. This week has been a little bit of a blur, but we had a conversation about what her schedule looks like now. There's a lot going on. What does training look like? It's like, okay, you've got 2 weeks before we officially get into it. What can we do? Let's set your new zones. She got a bike fit. She got a new indoor trainer that she absolutely loves. So we're working through those pieces. And then I also talked to her. I said, she's doing the 70.3 in June. She wants to do a half marathon in April. And we're not quite there, but I'm also a big believer, go have fun with it. And if your training day that day says that you're going to run for, my plans are all by time. If you're going to run for an hour and a half, go run an hour and a half on the half marathon. And then might just be a lovely stroll on the backside of it. So you're still out there. You can still enjoy your friends. It might be a day that you go and push the limits and just have a blast. We figure it out. I don't want to be that I'm not that coach that hold somebody back from having fun and doing things with their friends and family because they want to target that end goal. So, or that A race. So we adapt, we modify, we do some pivots. And I do preface it with, it may not look like what you think it's going to or what it should. But again, it goes back to like, trust that process. And we keep working towards that end goal. JW, you look like
So
you
you
had something
mentioned
to
A
say.
race.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you mentioned the A race part. Do you want to so with your athletes, you're picking then A race, B races, and even C races, and touch on that a little bit and explain maybe some of the listeners might not be familiar with that.
So my belief is you can have an A race. My belief is you can have one A race, not necessarily a season, but we've trained for that block and it fits into the schedule. So for example, athlete 70.3 is her A race. She found some other local races, looks like a lot of fun. She wants to do those. Let's see where they fit into the training. That then becomes a B race, maybe even a C race. For me, it's just easier to have them put it into Training Peaks, like what their thoughts are, kind of lay out the timeline. I know some coaches use a giant Excel sheet. They will spread it out. They'll color code all of that. I don't, I could do that. I just don't have the time to really dive into those analytics. But by this point in my coaching career, I have a little bit of knowledge where I'm like, yes or no, or this might, and I just ask for them to be open-ended. We can have several B races. We could have several C races. We could have races that were a B race and then all of a sudden something happens. And I'm like, nope, let's not do that. So as long as that conversation is open between coach and athlete, I think it's something that's always able to be adapted and adjusted as we go. Something might even pop up. Alicia's snowshoe race is a great example. So if she's my athlete, like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to pivot hard because that's a different type of race than what we've been training for. So now we're going to go in, we're going to focus on some strength, some hip flexor, some glute work, probably things like that. And then, really pay attention to recovery. The A race can still sit there and we can still work towards that. But for me, my thought as a coach would be like, that's amazing because you're going to work different muscles than just strictly road running and you can strengthen. It's a huge benefit to mix it up a little bit. So I'm a big believer in one A race per block. You cannot have two A races because I don't believe that you can peak like subsequent weeks. This was a question I was going to ask both of you too. After a race, I typically give my athletes a week of do whatever feels good. I don't want to say don't do nothing, but I say that sounded like really bad English, by the way. Like, I don't want to say just sit on the couch and just sit there, but do what feels good. If it feels good to go for a nice walk with the family, go do it. If you want to go on a nice little jog and see how the legs feel, go for it. But nothing structured for at least that first week. The second week, I'm still kind of borderline. Honestly, as my athletes get older, sometimes I'm like 2 weeks, just yoga, stretch it out, move when you feel like it, rest, recover. Especially if they have big goals on the backside, then we're really focusing on the next chapter and what that next cycle looks like, that next group of building blocks that we need to target into.
Alicia, how do you handle that with your athletes after a big A race?
Well, I guess it definitely depends. If their A race is a 5K, we can work out the next day. If it's a marathon, if it's an ultra marathon, if it's a 70.3, obviously everyone is going to be different. I am the same way. I won't put anything on their Training Peaks, on their calendar structure. I don't expect anything out of them, but I do want them to like go for a walk. That doesn't mean lay on your couch and do nothing. For sure, 100%. Listen to your body, do what feels good. But I am always I think as coaches in general, we are the ones pulling them back. They are the ones that want to go. They don't want to lose their fitness. They don't want to lose their routine, their structure. It's almost they call it like you go through this like the blues of this depression almost of now what do I do? If you've ever completed a program, you can go back to a very popular P90X. Everyone's probably heard of that. I think it's 90 days, right? Or and then you do it and it's like, and then what? You stop doing everything, right? It's very similar. Yeah, very similar to, a training thing. It's like, okay, let's celebrate what we just accomplished. Let's focus on the wins. Let's focus on the weaknesses, and let's go back to the drawing board of not necessarily what's next, but how are we feeling? How are we doing? How did our body handle that? And there is some really cool science on, like, if you do a marathon, you can get a second peak, and obviously this would be difference between an A and a B race, but 5 weeks later you can get like another real peak of fitness simply through resting and holding on to that fitness, because your body is gaining so much fitness in that race. If you can rest and recover, you can actually get another really cool boost. So for example, I had an athlete do Chicago last October, and then she did Philly half marathon in like right around Thanksgiving, and she had an amazing half marathon. So again, that's very individual, but it's a conversation that you can have. It doesn't say, okay, I did an A race and now I need to, like, running is over, racing is over, time to chill and put my feet up. But I mean, the goal is to just keep falling in love with the sport, keep being hungry. I never want an athlete feeling burnt out. But again, it kind of goes back to that, okay, what's next? Because if you don't have anything on the calendar and then suddenly something bursts up and you're like, I want to do this. Okay, we could talk about this. Let's have a conversation about this. I had an athlete who did a marathon. She's done 3 marathons in like a very short time span. And she's going on a trip, and there just happens to be a marathon that weekend. It's in 12 weeks. How would you go for training this? She's kind of recovered. Could she do this marathon in 12 weeks?
When was her
I would
last
say
marathon?
yes.
Her last marathon was in November. So she's recovered, but she hasn't really been doing a whole lot. She kind of took off time for the holidays, and now she just jumped on this race, and it's in 12 weeks. So
I mean, what's the goal, right? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, is she trying to PR? Did she just want to go and experience the race? Again, what's the motivation?
So she was about 1 minute from PRing her last race. It was a net downhill course, so that's obviously a huge win. And this next course is also a net downhill course. And yeah, so I have the same kind of thoughts, and I think it's doable. It's very doable. Can she race it? Yes. Will it be her best race? It depends, right?
Well, there's a lot of real estate between now and then, right? So I think so. I mean, I think that kind of segues into some of the thoughts I was having listening to the both of you talk about what do you do after an A race, and then how do you map out, we'll try that English word, back-to-back type events, right? So I'm a little more structured after a race. So I go into Training Peaks, and they have a mandatory 1 hour walk the day after an A race. Doesn't matter the distance, right? So they'll have, I basically tell them 5 to 10 days. We won't know it's going to be 10 days. We won't know if it'll be 5 days, but you're going to have recovery, and we need to have recovery after your event. Yes, the 5K, depending on their fitness going into that 5K and everything else, it might be a bit shorter. But in general, with my athletes, 5 to 10 days, the first couple of days, after an all-out effort will be a mandatory 1-hour walk, right? So it's go whatever, nice, slow, leisure pace, go family member, take the dog, just go out, do whatever, go walk. And then, we're communicating, and I have 3 markers that I always ask them. And I will ask them, is your sleep back to normal, right? As it was before the race, not the night of the race, but everything else before that, right? Is your nutrition back? Are you eating well again? Right. And then how's your sleep, your nutrition, and your hydration is the other one. As we know, as we get deep into the science, there's huge impact to all 3 of those after a big endurance race. Right. And so I want those 3 markers I want athletes to consciously be thinking about it. And yes, I even give them instructions, make sure after the race that you're drinking slowly, but not all at once, because you won't feel thirsty, blah, 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 kind of stuff. Right. And once they start coming back and they say, yeah, like I'm sleeping well, I'm eating okay, and my hydration never changed, then I'll start them off with a 30-minute foundation run, right? And just say, you can walk this, you can stop it, you can do whatever you want, like you turn it into a full walk, or maybe an hour, again, depending on the athlete, but 30 minutes to an hour. And then I'll ask them, how do you feel after that? And if I need them, and I tell them, I need you to be honest, not that you're biting at the bit trying to get back into training, but how do you honestly feel? And be honest with yourself, because we need to know how your recovery is going. And some athletes are like, yeah, it was still a little sore, but I'm starting to loosen up halfway through, whatever. And it's okay. Well, we're going to do either another really slow foundation, or we're going to draw back to another day or two of walk, and get into it. And that's kind of how I treat most of my athletes. I put it in the training peaks, but there's a lot of communications with them. But I even tell them when we first start working together, even right into that discovery meeting, it's like, when you do your A races, I'm going to be very, picky on those 3 markers, and you got to be honest and meet them, because it's a long-term game, not a short-term game, right? Like, you want to be able to go out and do other events without causing, um, harm, I guess, if you want, to yourself, because whether or not athletes want to admit it or know it, there's on, any, marathons, half marathons, 10Ks, the ultras, the hundreds, the whatever, there's a huge amount of physiological damage on the inside, right? And even though you may be feeling great when you come back, you're probably not yet. I kind of reference back to, it's like being dehydrated. When you start to feel thirsty, you're minimum 10, 20% already dehydrated, right? So let's get ahead of that and make sure that you're ready to come back to training. As far as how many sorry?
No, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead
no,
with
go
about
ahead.
your A race. I was going to ask you, so when your athletes are finished with their race, do you have a recap session with them? Do you have a questionnaire? Do you have a phone call? What's that look like?
We have a meeting. Yep. I want
Okay.
them to book a meeting as soon as they can, closest to the end of the race. I want to feed on their kind of, so to say, like their vibes, their excitement, how they finished, and, really build them up, because, an example, pretty sure I got the okay to do this, but Ricky just ran the Houston half marathon this weekend. It was a B event for him. Right. And I'll explain how I set up my A, B's, and C's. So he called it the dress rehearsal, because he has the Woodlands Marathon happening I'll give him a plug here, happening in a month. And that marathon is all about raising money for cancer, I believe it's cancer research for kids. Right. And so that's what that marathon's about. And so the one that he just did on the weekend, it was the dress rehearsal. So how's the gear? How's the nutrition? How's the hydration plan? Everything leading up, the Tart cherry juice during the week, and, getting a nice relaxing massage on the Monday, Tuesday, the week of, I have my athletes do all of that. And we came up with a nice pace plan, right? Okay. 1:40 to do the half marathon. That was his B event. He smashed it. 1:36.
Wow,
Right? Is what he did
amazing.
for a B event, right? And again, it was, sorry, Ricky, but he was like, on Monday, he's like, do I have to walk or can I run? You got to walk.
Walk,
kind of
walk,
thing, right?
Ricky.
Please
Yeah.
walk. We want you to, again, it's that kind of pulling the athlete, which I love.
Yeah.
I love doing that, right? Let's harness that. Let's now walk. Let's make sure you're good. Then the next day, and so now we slowly build up through the week to get him back in. Same questions: how's the sleep? How's the nutrition? How's the hydration? And today's session is like, I feel great. No aches, no pains, no nothing. It's like awesome kind of thing, right? And so when I set up these, I love these, and this is about a month away, right? So we're 4 weeks ish, I believe it's 4 weeks to the A race. Week and a half, a week will be a taper. So we've only got a few weeks kind of left of hard training. And I tell my athletes, this is how, when an athlete asks me about A races and can I do all these other races, this is how I explain it, and explain it in consult calls is the A race, like you're leaving it all on the table kind of thing, right? I know, well, let me get into that second. We'll talk about that in the blueprint, but I do have a different version of my A, B's, and C's. So I think that answers kind of what you threw out there to us, and what I help my athletes in what races to pick in a year. I have a thing. I think we've talked about it, but I have this little, it's a diagram and everything, and I call it the circle of success. Right? I'm not. Maybe we haven't talked about it yet, but there's this. I have this I call the circle of success with my athletes, and I view myself as only one seat at the table on their fitness journey. Right? Like call me the tour guide, call me whatever it is, but I'm laying out that plan for them to just kind of wake up, go, okay, this is what I'm doing, and away I go. Within this circle of success, the first question I ask a lot of athletes, and I even mentioned it on a consult call today, is because this lady was returning to sport and she wants to do a 70.3, right? So first question I kind of really asked when she says, like, how do I set the year up? And I says, have you talked to your significant other yet? Have you talked to your family and your friends? In this circle of success, that's one of the big things is going to be that significant other. If we don't get that buy-in from them, and I think we talked about this in episode 1, if we don't get that buy-in from the family, the significant other, to spend all this time and money, as we know, triathlons are not cheap. Even just a training for them can get up there. If you don't get the buy-in, your chances of succeeding well are going to be reduced, right? We need that buy-in. So within that circle of success, if you can have that buy-in from the family, like, yes, I am, you can do 15 hours a week training. Got it. I think, Alicia, we've talked a little bit about it. I hope you don't mind, but like your husband, I'll take the kids to this event tonight so that you can go record the podcast, so that you can get your run done, or the session at the gym. Right. So that all plays into, fitting it into the chaos. How do we figure out the plan? Other parts of that circle of success. So we have family and friends. You got your coach, massage therapist. I always include them in there, right? They're going to be a huge part within the plan. I did have a chat with an athlete, and they're just like, well, I went and got that massage you told me to have before the race, and she told me that I have tight calves. It's like, well, you got a lot of volume. It's not surprising, right? But she's like, well, maybe you should come twice a month. And I go, well, unless there's something wrong, me personally, and Jess, she's an RMT as well. So my wife, Jess, she's a registered massage therapist as well. And we had a little chat about it. And she kind of agrees that if there's nothing really wrong and you want to go on maintenance, once a month should be fine, right? In around that 4 or 5 weeks. The other one is chiropractor. That one often gets overlooked as well, as, just kind of keeping some of that bone health and everything in line will help as well. So I fit that into with the family buy-in, their support, kind of, you want to stay married if you're married, right? You probably want to talk about some of your race selections and just making sure it works. We're lucky. We tend to race pretty much everything the same. And it's almost like, it's our vacation as well. It's like, we're loading up the trailer and the neighbor's kids will come over and just go, oh, a race? Because we don't have the kayaks on the trailer kind of thing, or on the truck. Whereas if we got it, oh, you guys are actually going camping. So sometimes they don't know, are you going camping? It's like, no, actually we're going to a race. So we build it into kind of like our getaways. But I think you got to have that huge circle of success. All those people are going to play an equal part in your success. So, that's kind of how I help when we're selecting the goals and the races, which kind of leads into, how do we set up that blueprint, right? So how do we set up the map? we tend to call it periodization. We tend to call it the ATP, so the annual training plan. So if you're in Training Peaks, I know some people will use the ATP there. Some don't know it exists. I use it with all my athletes, and we can actually look things out. But very rarely do I actually go in and change, because it'll auto calculate a lot of things for you, like your base, your builds, your peaks, and everything. I tend to tell, sorry, Training Peaks, but I tell my athletes, ignore that. I just don't want to go change it, because it might change anyways if we throw some races in there and whatnot. But let's Anne, let's see how you kind of build your blueprint with your athletes. Are you sorry?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking. Sorry, I was itching my eye, and I was thinking.
Oh,
at
okay.
the
I
same
thought I
time. Yeah,
wasn't
that's
sure
what
if
it
you were
was.
telling me to tell Alicia first
no.
or not.
And I was not crying either. So, here I am again. I feel strongly that you can really go down the rabbit hole, right, of diving into the data and using, the ATP on Training Peaks. What is the other one? And I'm going to get in trouble for this. The WK, WKO,
WPK or WTK
WKRP. I don't. That's not it. Whatever that
in
is. That other
Cincinnati.
stuff. Yeah, you got that. Thanks. Anyway. So it's so
The performance management chart, that one?
No, I do look at that one. I do. I love that one for some reason. I'm always in there messing around with that one. But I don't use that stuff. I really just I listen to what my athlete wants to do. When I'm diving into data on my athletes too, I go in, I'll pull up a run, for example. So you had a foundation run. I look at it. I go up to analyze. I look at the little blue blocks at the top. I look at that red line. Did you stay in the zone I told you to stay in? You did for a while, but then at the end, you didn't listen. You went out of your zone for the last 10 minutes. And then if it's consistent, like we do have a little bit of conversation like that, but I don't dive deep into the data. I am a big believer that sometimes it's just too much. A lot of my athletes are newer athletes, and I'm very much, I go back to, I'm like such an old lady, like back in my day, when I was running, I had a Timex, and that's what I used. And it's true. That's how I started running.
Hey, I'm just going to say, because I know, sorry, I'm just going to say, because I know she's going to be listening to this. I got in trouble last semester for using the phrase old lady, just so you know.
I will own it all day long. It's funny because I look around work and I truly am the oldest person in my like in the building. These kids are all old enough to be my kids. Some of them are younger than my own children. So I own that old lady. Like, I try to, if I said WKRP at work, no one would have any idea what I was talking about. So thanks for playing along with that. Anyway, so when I started training for my first marathon, I literally I had a Timex from, God, probably Target. I don't know. And I was super excited when I finally got the Garmin Forerunner that was the rectangular shape that took up half of your forearm. And maybe you stood out there and for like 20 minutes to try to get a signal to make it work. I don't, yeah, you stood there and Lord, when I ran the Chicago Marathon, it just completely went to crap whenever you got in between the buildings because it couldn't pick up a signal for anything. So I love heart rate. I love my Garmin that I've got on my wrist is worth it. It's a very valuable, expensive piece of equipment for what I use it for. I just don't use it for the big, it's a very expensive gadget that's on my wrist that I don't use to its full capability. So when I look at my athletes and I talk to them, I'm very much, I go back to, let's see where it fits. Let's look at the training block. Let's look what you want to do. Most of my athletes, being in the Midwest, where they really, unfortunately, only had time to train for one big event a year. because by the time they got through that and they did their half Ironman or Ironman event or even a marathon, the weather got too cold, and then a lot of them just didn't travel to go to races outside of the area. So for us, it was kind of a one and done. Shorter events, like Alicia talked about a little bit earlier, was go throw down a couple sprint triathlons, go run a couple of 5Ks. Those you can recover very quickly from. So, but at the same time, if we have one specific that we want to target, um, and you've got a couple of other sprints that you want to do for fun, then we just use them as a training day. We hold back a little bit, but I'm more of a free, I don't want to say a free for all, because there is a little bit of a method to the madness, but it's definitely not a scientific data driven. I know the athletes that I have, they've been with me for quite a while. So by now I'm very familiar with what training does with them, what load they can do. I do have a newer athlete that I'm learning the load a little bit with that person that I do need to kind of adapt and adjust, and we will have some conversations about A and B races. So it's very individual too. I don't have a standardized plan for A and B races for all my athletes. I just tend to listen to what they want and where they want to go, and really the meaning behind it. So like you had said earlier, JW, is this a PR race, or is this are we going to go have fun in Key West and run along the beach and just explore the island and have a blast? Yes. That's what we're going to do. That's what Anne's going to do this weekend. So,
And I think it's also okay to have an A race and just want to be, the goal is to finish. Like, I think that's very acceptable. It shouldn't always be about the time and taking it so seriously. Like, the fact it's about, for me, it's so much more about the journey and the process in the lead up, whereas like the race day is simply the celebration. Like, whatever happens, happens. Like, you could have, that's the thing. It's so unpredictable that you just have to be like in it through the journey. For me, I'm like, we can talk about the week to week, the process goals, the things you overcame during it. But I actually had an athlete who did like New York City Marathon. That was his A race. And his comment at the afterwards, after we chit chatted, and he said, I wish I wouldn't have raced it and I would have experienced it. That was his feedback. So, maybe you've been, and I know I'm definitely guilty of it. I'm too busy looking at the person in front of me instead of like looking up and taking in the scenery. So, having, being mindful of that too. Obviously there's time and a place to race. But it's okay that that's not the goal. And,
Absolutely. And I think what you said really defines what my athletes hear me say a lot, is that everybody's out there running their own race. And that's really what it means, is that your version of a PR, that race might be something different than the person standing beside you, what they want to do as a PR for their race. And it's interesting. I typically don't say good luck to racers, like athletes, when they go out and race a race. I think ultra trail racing taught me this, is I tell them, go out and have the best race the course will give you that day. Right? Because you just don't know. You can have the perfect training all the way up, and all depends on what the course is going to do that day. And I can remember going back to Black Spur, I don't know, a few years ago anyways. I only did the 54K distance, but it rained all 10 hours. Right? And so I did the best I could that day in the rain. But the plus, and you mentioned the wind. The wind is, you're maybe not looking forward to the wind. The plus side of that, everybody out there will be having the same experience.
Yep. And
right? Like, the wind's not just on one person. The rain's not just going to hit one person. Everybody's going to experience it. So it's still an equalizer, I guess, if you want to call it. But just trust the results, trust the process. And if you want, trust the training.
That's the thing, is that it's funny because you're right. It's the same for everybody. Everybody's dealt the same hand of cards. But I had to run one of my marathons. I don't remember which one it was. It really doesn't matter. But I did the training. We stellar, didn't have an injury. I was going to have a good time. and felt great. And I slept wrong on the darn hotel pillow the night before and had the worst, like, knot in my shoulder. That is completely unpredictable. It's not something
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know that I could have controlled it, but it was just one of those things that I got the whole way there. But the joy is in that journey. And then, those races that have I ran the Vegas Marathon, and we had literally every season, all 4 seasons in that 26 miles. It started out sunny, it snowed, it rained, the wind blew, and then the sun came out again and it was like 80 degrees and everybody was sunburned. So it was crazy, but I remember those races. Those are the races that I remember that were those are the ones you talk about. Like I joke around that back in my day, but those are the races that really come up in conversation. It's not really the half marathon that I ran in Omaha, and it's the fun ones. The weather's crazy or something insane happened along the way during the day. So that's really what it's all about. My finisher medal in Key West is going to be the same as the first place finisher. My pizza is going to be a little bit colder, but at the end of the day, the course is the same. It does bring me to a question, though. I don't know if we've talked about that. Have you guys decided on what your 2026 races are?
I knew them last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do
yeah.
you
No,
want to share?
we pretty much have a staple. I think we do. There's nine or 10 events that we tend to do. We actually just dropped one. Actually, we haven't officially dropped it yet. It's the kids triathlon. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a tricky one because it's traditionally been the last day of their soccer, so their final soccer match, and then trying to get from one city to the next city to get them ready to go do a kids triathlon. There's just a lot of chaos. Loud chaos, if you kind of want to call it, right? And to me, that's kind of taking away some of the fun of going out there and doing it with the kids, right? But yeah, in short, and yeah, we tend to know the 9 or 10 events that we kind of do ahead of time. Actually, a couple of them, like the Canadian Death Race. When we leave, when I'm checking out of the hotel in 2025, I am booking my room for 2026. Because if you don't, 3 weeks later, they will be full.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Alicia, your thoughts on knowing your races, and then how do you blueprint your athletes for the year?
Yeah. Well, I do want to go back to the data. So I'm a huge data nerd, but it is interesting when I have my conversation with my athletes, they don't care about the data. Some of them do. And some of them like it. They like to see the goods, right? Sometimes I'll point out the bads, but I don't sometimes really care about the data because, like you said, you got 20-mile-an-hour winds coming up. Your paces that maybe you're going to try and aim for are going to be totally different with 20 to 30-mile-an-hour winds. But how you feel is what's important. So we can go back to power, we can go heart rate, we can go pace. But at the end of the day, my favorite metric is that RPE and I want somebody to lock in that they know how zone 2 feels, how zone 3 feels, whether they're on an incline, running up a hill, running downhill with 20-mile-an-hour winds. They can just feel how they feel. They can feel that, okay, I'm at a 5 or a 6, or this is a 7 or 8. Oh my God, I am at a 10. This is really hard. Okay. Because GPS watches fail. I can't tell you how many times I've had an athlete either skip their workout, freak out, they start walking because their watch died, or it says searching, or they can't find it, or it's inaccurate, or their heart rate saying it's 190 and they're walking. So letting go of the technology and kind of coming back to just how am I feeling is very humbling. Now, going back to the blueprint again, I think I'll just talk about I'll just talk about me. No.
Do it. We'd love to hear that.
No. So I am not doing any marathons this year, and I for one, as a busy mom, I love the half marathon distance. It's good enough of a suffer. You do need to train for it, but you can recover quickly from it. It's not super, super time consuming. I really like to lean into those key workouts, which consists of the long run, the speed run, the easy run. So they're really easy to kind of fit into the chaos. But you can really get competitive with it. And that's one where you can actually kind of dabble. I'll probably do one in the spring, one in the fall. But I am actually going back to the triathlon this year. Nothing crazy. I'm either doing a sprint, maybe I'll do an Olympic. I haven't decided yet. But August, I haven't picked a race, but in August, I'm going to do a sprint triathlon or a triathlon. So
Awesome.
having that motivation to, I mean, I ride my bike every week, but I can't say I'm training. Okay, there's a difference between working out and training. And so that'll be something we pop in. We got the 5K coming up next weekend. And then October, we're doing it, so it's really just going to be building up some conditioning, some good base, and it's trail running. So it's going to force me to not run my same loops locally. It's going to force me to kind of get out, explore a little bit, test out some new shoes, give me a good excuse to get some trail shoes. I don't know if I'm going to be one of those pack people. Do you guys run with packs, or you guys like belts, or?
I'm not.
I'm definitely a pack.
Yeah, I am a pack person too. Actually, I think I have to wear it this weekend, which I'm not thrilled about, but this is a cupless race, because of the ocean, and a lot of places are going to cupless anyway. So I just don't want to handheld for 13 miles. I also am
And I'm a handheld all day. Like, give me that handheld.
Yeah, I do. I have mine packed, and so I have my handheld packed for the 5K, 10K, because I think I will use it there. For the marathon, or for the half marathon, I'm going to use the pack, but not the bladder. I just have a place to put the 2 flasks where I have the pre-made electrolyte stuff, and more to carry my gels, so I don't have it all like shoved into my pockets and have like these weird bulges. So for me, yeah, I think I don't love it. I've never worn a pack for a half marathon. I've always just used what's on the course and tucked my nutrition into my pockets wherever. But this is just, I don't know. It's different. Why not? Doing everything different. So yeah, it's gonna, I don't know. I think for me, for 2026, I'm still very much on the fence with things. Key West would be number 15 half marathon. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's a great number to go out on. And then in my mind, I'm like, but it's so close to 20. And this is how it happens. And this is what happens with endurance, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I could definitely get 20 in the next, or 20, 5 more in to hit 20.
I can't end on an odd number. It has to be an even number races.
Well, but 15 is kind of like, it's not even, but it's a good number. So I don't know, because then I go down the rabbit hole of looking at other marathon weekends, because, one day of running is not enough. Let's just go find something that has 2 or 3. And then I go down the circle of the adventure races where we could go for an entire week. But the reality is life is going to be a little bit crazy for us this year. Hopefully travel wise. My daughter is moving to Hawaii in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So very exciting, and I get very excited for her. So I have always kind of sort of been toying around with, I've looked at the Maui Channel swim. It's, I would need, and if any of you are up for it, I would need some I don't want to do it solo. I would rather do it as a relay. So if anybody wants to explore and research,
she moving to Maui?
She's moving to Honolulu. So the Pearl Harbor. Her boyfriend is in the Pearl. The main island.
I thought Pearl Harbor was on Oahu. No.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So It's all in the general vicinity,
Mhm.
so I feel like we can get there. So I think for me that's maybe the direction I'm going to go. I don't know.
Yeah. Oahu has an amazing triathlon group there, by the way.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
so travel.
Is your
Hopefully,
daughter into endurance sports?
no. 100% no. This is my child. Love her to death. She did not pass her swim lessons, and I'm not sure whose child she is, but she never. She just. She did. She has. She did run a little bit, with us when I was training, but um, she never got into like she's done a couple 5Ks, but that's about it. So, so
That's
anything
awesome.
like, God, solidified
No,
on
I was going
on
to
the
say,
right.
I wonder if my parents were like me, would I have been the way I am now? Like, I think
Mm.
I was what they weren't because I am, and vice versa. I wonder how my kids will be because I am like such a athlete as a mom. I'm so competitive and like driven. They see me, but will they do the opposite or will they follow me? It's like a 50-50.
I don't know.
I think. Who
That's
knows?
a deep
Hmm.
question
But
too.
yeah,
Time
yeah.
will tell.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
I'll support whether they're professional bowlers or they become the best knitters in the planet. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the job is, just do the job with, pride. Pride and
Yeah,
ownership, right? Doesn't matter what the job
exactly.
is, just be proud in the work that you're producing. We are coming up close on time, and I just want to touch a little bit on how I set up, a periodization or a plan for athletes. But I think if you two are good with it, I think next episode I'd like to continue on a little deeper because I know I won't get much time into it, but a little deeper into some of that back-to-back racing, as we call it, some of that recovery, and then maybe some of the other things that we didn't quite finish off on this one. But with my athletes, I will have them first pick that. What is that A race? What is the big goal? What's the star that's glowing in the distance that you want to reach and achieve? And then from there, we'll just build their year backwards, right? And so I think you can have 2, maybe 3 A races in a year, depending on how they're spread out and kind of what they are. But typically, I'll say around 2. And Jess is officially signed up for the Sinister Triple. And she may do the 4 Horsemen. So the triple is basically 3 ultra trail races within 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's where I think the next episode will carry on with how do you get an athlete ready
And
for
just
that?
to question, what's the distance? What's the mileage? What's the kilometers for
So
this
she's
ultra?
doing the triple mini. So it'll be around about what we'll call it average 50 kilometers per race. So in that 6 weeks, she will race 150-ish kilometers. Right. There's others that will be doing 300 and something. So if you do the full triple, it'll be around 300 kind of kilometers in around there, maybe a little more. And then the mini is about half of that. So
Alicia, are
think
you
about it. I
typing in
mean,
the
I guess
conversion?
what's that?
Okay, so I know a
Sorry.
10K is 6.2 miles.
I knew that's what you were
again,
doing.
this is about 31 miles for us non-kilometer people.
That's
So,
literally, I
50K
knew
is
that's
31 miles.
okay.
Right? So
I knew
50K
that's
is
what you were
31
doing.
miles.
That's yeah. Sorry.
I had to write the conversions down here. Yeah. So
I'm
yeah,
terrible
62
at
miles
it.
is 100K.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a lot.
Okay.
So
Um,
in 3 weeks. But going back into the, setting up their, I'll call it the microcycle and macrocycle, and we'll talk a little bit more about, you're here coaches, so the base, the peaks and the builds and everything else. And Anne's even said quite a few times, just because I know we were going to talk about this, the training block, right? And so the training blocks tend to be the mesocycle, so those 4 to 6 week sections that your coach puts together, and that's where you build through the different phases. But I'll have my athlete pick that A race, and then we go back. So, if it's an ultra, typically the plans would be 22 weeks. And so I say, okay, like put the races that you want, put them kind of in the calendar right away or mark them down on paper. But I like a calendar. If you can get a whole year calendar out, or if we're working on an ATP, it's nice too, because then you can see the whole calendar linear wise, and then put them all in. And then we look at it and kind of say, wow, that's a lot. Okay, how are we going to start weeding some of these out? And so we'll pick it out. And then once we kind of go back to that 22 weeks, if there's a race in there, we're going to go, okay, cool. Let's pick that as a B or a C race. I like it. I want to, because they're all, I can't have that in there. It's like, absolutely you can. And if you didn't have one in there, I tell you to go find one, kind of thing in their training. And then, on the call I did this morning with the lady was, she doesn't have anything till her goal race, it's September. So we got a lot of time in there. And I'm like, man, I wish a lot of athletes kind of came to me with that much time before an A event, especially returning to sport. And this is kind of how you do it. And so, put that in there. Good. Go. Yeah, this is what I said to her. I said, so biking's going to be new for you for triathlon or newer. Go pick some kind of a bike race, right? Or maybe even go pick like a 10K race somewhere about a week or two before you start that plan. And then go find a 12-week program to build up to that. And then now start building, lift heavy, start getting the strength happening now, work on some limiters, get used to the bike, get used to trainers, get used to the metrics you're going to use. I know, Anne, you like heart rate. I tell my athletes, we're going to only use heart rate as a check engine light. We're going to use pace, power first if we can, and pace. But, you can't dismiss heart rate. And so, sometimes athletes have to kind of get used to training differently with it. And again, it's all going to be athlete specific and even sometimes event specific, right, on what you're doing. So, heart rate, running a 100-miler with, 1,700, 2,000 meters elevation, yes, your heart rate's always going to be elevated. So if you use that kind of as your main metric, you're probably not going to be able to pace yourself very greatly on there. But you also want to know if you're going to implode. So that's why I always kind of call it the check engine light. And so the way I explain the A, B, and C races to my athletes, A, you leave it all out on the course. That is it. Like I could not have done any more, right? Like, and hopefully we're doing a perfect pace race. And then, and you will take a few days, right? If you come back to me 2 days after and say, I'm ready to go on my training runs again, I'll say you did not give it all you had on that A race. Like you should be gassed for that 5 to 10 days, depending on the event. The B races, I use these as the gear check, the nutrition, the hydration checks, right? I'll tell athletes, if you're doing a big ultra race, find out what they're using on the course, start training your gut with it now, right? And so that you're ready for that race. B race, we're going to treat this as, your replacement for your long run that is happening at the end of the week. You will have a day or two of recovery, but you should come quickly back into your regular training block and you should be able to be back on and recover pretty quickly. Your C race, this one is it's just like you're going to do your zone 2. You're staying in zone 2 for the whole race. And it doesn't matter because you want to go test a new pair of shoes. You want to test a pack, right? You're not used to packs and you want to run with a pack. You're going to test using whatever it is. And I even say, test the logistics, test the check-ins and test all this other stuff. And with a B in a C race, you are willing to walk away. So the morning of the race, you could have a niggle in your hip or something. And you just like, I don't know. That is a race I say you're willing to walk away because it's not the A race, right? You can be mid-race and just go, yeah, no, I got to shut this down. It's not working. And they have to have that mindset going in. And so that's how I set up my A, B, and C races. And typically kind of how we figure out how they're going to map out through a year.
I love that. I know we're definitely nearing the end.
Mhm.
I think we should just tease this for next week is just like qualifying for races or not being able to get into your races, or you want this race but you can't even register for it yet because it's not open. Another thing is like I'm actually looking to do a high rocks. I don't know if I'm actually going to get in for it. was one of those things of like, yeah, and it's a back-to-back race. So I think we should kind of maybe have that conversation next week.
Absolutely. I
And
think, a lot of talk right now is BQ, right?
mhm,
Can I
mhm,
qualify for Boston? How do I
mhm.
get qualified for Boston? I've had a few of those conversations. I love it, Alicia. So yeah, let's talk about, we'll get Anne's recap on the next episode. Absolutely, about how
Good luck,
awesome she's going to crush
Anne.
this race. Because it is the right
Thanks.
weekend. It wasn't last weekend, right?
Because I will be there for the race. It's funny because I've also talking about like where you get in. There is a race, and I'm not going to throw it out there, but there's something that I was kind of eyeballing that is very, very hard to get into. That I don't know. We're going to see how this weekend goes. It's going to go great, but we're going to see if I still enjoy running. I don't know. I've never really. It's growing on me with this cycle. So TBD
Yeah.
on that. But yes, next week I will actually be fresh off the plane. I think we land right before
Woohoo.
we get a chance to chat. So I will let y'all know. I'll send you photos of the white sandy beaches if I'm not sandblasted.
Post them on the
Awesome.
social.
So
Yes.
the nice little catchphrase I was able to come up with to end the show this week was, the plan is just a piece of paper until you execute it, right? We used to say this in first response all the time. Plans are awesome, but they're dunked in the toilet as soon as you go to execute them, right? Because oftentimes, again, the course, whatever it is, might have its own idea for you. So really, the plan is just a piece of paper till we execute it. But if we don't have the paper, you're just guessing. You're just throwing darts at a dartboard. So you need that blueprint. So what the homework is going to be for our listeners really is go get your calendar. And you're going to just basically map it out. Drop a line on our Instagram, DM us, so direct message us. If you want some help, even just, quick questions or, what would you do here or there? DM us. Any one of us will glad to throw some advice out there and some of our experience. But really over the next 2 weeks, go get that calendar, write all your races in there, or write it on a piece of paper. Find out what are going to be your A, B, and C events, and then basically map it out. Once you've got a blueprint written down, go talk to those significant others, talk to your family, talk to your friends, and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to get some support, because one of the other things when I'm working with my athletes is they have to decide how much time do they have in a week that they can train. And that needs to be discussed honestly. And I think next week we'll also talk about some of the details that go into that. So figure it out, figure out what the family obligations are, because especially if you're doing triathlon, 3 events you're training for, that is fitting it into the chaos. So, and let us know, what does your A race look like? Where are you going? Maybe we're going to some of the same places, or maybe you'll spark somebody to go join you at a race. So we're going to leave you with that. Let us know what it is. If you haven't heard all the other episodes, head over to Spotify or whatever platform you listen to our episodes on and get caught up. There is some really good information and some great conversations in those episodes. So I'm Coach JW. Trust the blueprint, do the work, and fit the training into the chaos, and I'll see you on the trails.
You're amazing.
That's a wrap for this week on the Endurance Balance. If you enjoyed the conversation, do us a huge favor. Hit that follow or subscribe button on your podcast app right now. It's the best way to support the show. And hey, we want to see your chaos. So come find us on Instagram at The Endurance Balance and drop us a DM. For Coach Alicia and Coach Ann, I'm Coach JW. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the trails.